Greetings! Welcome to Two Exiles, One Portal. I am joined by Casper on this momentous day.
Oh,
No, it's happening. 8 minutes. Log in. No, I'm sorry.
everyone's screaming log in the
In the chat, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
man.
it's time. It's that time again.
Yeah,
Getting good shit.
I was thinking about doing a Twitch, the whole Twitch drop thing, and look, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're not Twitch streamers. We have all this thing set up, but it's like I don't want to take away people from going to the actual Twitch channel. Even though you can get the Twitch drops from our channel. And I think for now, I just felt like it was not justifiable just to go do a live commentary. Why are there so much women? What's going on with Twitch? Is it turned into a porn site?
Basically, yeah.
I haven't been on Twitch in a while. Whoa.
Yeah, same.
All the recommended channels are like bimbos.
That seems like a hot take, but
like boobs, like showing boobs and like sexuality.
Yeah, but
why am I even saying this? 18 plus colonoscopy cam. Like I just scrolled over, like what is going on with? Anyway, I'm sorry.
Wait, an 18 plus colonoscopy cam? Are you fucking kidding me? On Twitch?
I don't know.
Click it. No, I need you to do. I need you to do it for science. I need you to do it for science, or send me the link. I don't care. The science has to happen. I need to know if this shit's allowed.
I think she updated it. It's not there.
No. Okay. Wait, she updated it from colonoscopy.
Oh, I mean, I'm clicking it. All right, for science, clicking it. Yeah, I'm getting out of here. This is weirding me out. It's not.
Is it a colonoscopy?
No, it's just a bunch of ads. I'm not. It's the fact that 7,000 people watching that is disturbing. We are live.
I you know what? I'm gonna fucking make the sacrifice, bro. I have to go see this.
Yeah.
I have to know why.
You know what's funny? I am not weirded out by sexual kinky stuff. It's just that it's just weird in a sense that they're doing this on Twitch.
What's the PM me the channel name?
I'll give you the link. It's probably easier, right?
That's also probably true.
It's a bunch of ads though. I didn't see anything. I can't believe we're doing this on live.
Well, look at we're doing God's work right now.
We got 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're doing God's work right now.
See, look, it says colonoscopy cam immerse, and there's a bunny.
What the fuck? Well, I guess we're gonna have to wait for these ads.
We got 5 minutes, bro.
Sexual themes. It's time to watch these ads. Let's go.
We got 5 minutes.
I need to know what the fuck's happening.
This is why our society is failing, and why we're playing Path.
So she drew a guy poorly, I might add.
I don't know, man.
And she's like slathered in Vaseline. And now there's just jiggling ass on the screen with titty. Like, what the fuck is going on?
She's standing on. I know what that is. She's standing
the
on
thing that. Yeah. I know what it is.
Exercise thing. It's an exercise platform. Yeah.
This is what our fucking.
This is Twitch, bro.
This is what this is now.
This is Twitch.
You're fucking kidding!
We're here.
Dude, first of all,
we have 4 minutes.
First of all, this person isn't even live playing fucking video games right now. Yeah, they just have this on loop.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not about. I don't think this is about gaming anymore.
Like, don't get me wrong. She's got some very nice assets. But the fact that this is what this is, why wouldn't I just watch Chatterbait?
Because Twitch is free.
Chatterbait's free too.
Oh, wow. All right.
I don't have to fucking pay for that. Well, if I wanted to do something, I do. But I'm pretty sure if you want this chick to do something, you have to fucking pay her too. She's not gonna do fucking squats in front of the camera for free.
Well, she could jiggle for free, bro. What do you mean?
No, she's jiggling to get paid. The people in Chatterbait are just their pussies and shit are out, bro. Like what? I'm gonna see ass jiggling instead of pussy. Like, nah, get the fuck out of here. These people are fucking stoops. I'm just, Jesus Christ, bro.
Why does it keep jumping from video to video?
Because again, I think her stream is over, so she's just playing these to get dudes to show up and jack off.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Just sad, bro. Just fucking
boy.
sad. What the fuck is wrong with you, America?
And
I also noticed there was a lot of Russian
words. If you're
words
listening to this right now, please hit a button. All right? just
we did this for you.
We would jiggle for you, okay? If we could. I mean, we probably could. If you wanted us to jiggle, leave a comment. I mean,
if we get 5,000 comments wanting us to jiggle, we may just jiggle. But...
I know sex sales. I mean, sex sells.
But we're not the sex that sells. Is the point?
Maybe we need to be, man. I don't know.
No. That's my point being is we aren't the sex that gets the prospect of that nature.
We don't have to.
Well,
I feel like
are you gonna have
Brady
to get
quote? Am I gonna have to pimp out a hoe?
Oh, I was about to be like, are you gonna get fake titties? Like, I'm pretty sure we don't have the thing that
I'm about to just make my wife jiggle while I just talk over and we just talk past like yo, babe, I won't show your face. Just stand on this platform.
Get the little fucking thing so she doesn't even have to move.
I'm gonna put this camera right here. Just don't move. All right.
Stay there.
You did for 40 minutes. Let me just get a 40-minute recording. I can just loop that. Just loop it.
Every 12 minutes, you take her and put her.
You know what's messed up about it? If I actually ask, even if I be honest and ask my wife for it, she'll probably do it. She'll be like, yeah, sure, whatever. As long as it pays the bills, yeah, whatever.
I guess we know what we have to do, right? So we're gonna have to have a fucking meeting. It's gonna be 3 exiles.
It's like 2.5. I mean, 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. Like a half exile. It's literally the bottom half, right?
They want to see titties too, so it's 3/4.
Nah, you gotta pay for that one. You gotta pay for that one. Those my wife breastfeeds, so those are gonna be exclusively for my son. I don't want to betray him before he's. Imagine him being old enough to be like, "You showed them." Well, I was no, that's betraying. That's a bit. I don't want to.
No, you'd be like, "Look, we were making milkshakes so that you could enjoy your feedings more often."
That's funny. That's funny.
Oh, fucking terrible! 30 seconds. Again.
10 seconds. Again, if you
wait, are you somehow 20 seconds ahead of me?
It says 5, 4, 3.
I'm on 20. What the fuck?
1. Reload.
I am reloaded now.
He's talking now.
Interesting. Yeah.
Come to our live stream.
I'm literally like 5 seconds behind you.
Oh, I have to switch this audio to my headset. So if you're watching this live, just bear with me.
Freshly shaved head from Chris Wilson.
For real, he got the best razors.
Ooh.
Mark will then take you on a deep dive into the new Path of Exile Necropolis Challenge League, which launches in 1 week. He'll cover the league mechanics, its deep crafting system, large in-game changes, some improvements to the core Path of Exile campaign.
It's a lot of fucking improvements.
We'll then show you our new supporter packs, and we'll head into a live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask us your questions from Twitch chat. After the live stream, we'll drop the full patch notes.
Yeah, it says 2 weeks, and then you see it's already in a patch.
About POE 2 again. It's only been a few months since we talked about the Mercenary, and yet even since then, a huge amount has changed. When we announced the Mercenary, we also showed off a lot of the new capabilities that our engine has around animation and character control. Moving while shooting was a huge deal in that class, but there were a lot of other more subtle things going on to make it feel good too. Well, in recent times I've only been showing off new character classes, but one thing I've been really excited about is to go back and apply all the new ideas and capabilities that we have to our old classes too. Today I'd like to show off the Ranger, and I hope that you guys like what you see.
That's what this thing.
Oh,
What?
I wish they had waited to do this. My stomach. I'm actually have butterflies now.
All my life. And if there's
I don't
one
want
thing
them to
I've
talk
learned,
about the Ranger.
It's that a ranger must never miss.
I'm gonna stop messing with this because I feel like I'm messing it up. The live stream at
A
least.
beast will hunt you, but it is the cruelty of man I fear.
Okay.
There is no truly escaping the Count's justice.
Your sentence is to be hanged from the neck until dead. Let your souls feed the first ones.
This is Robin Hood?
And your bodies feed the land. After her!
Oh, looks nice. So, is this different than the other one with the crossbows?
Yes.
This exile has changed me. No more running.
Wait, how did he get so big?
No more fear.
You won't get away this time.
They love backflips, boy.
I will put an end to this madness.
Correction, they love flips, period. They got mounts?
Oh.
Let this be a warning, Gianor. I'm
Mounts?
coming for you next.
I see mount and a lot of charging abilities. Like, the longer you hold them, the more damage.
Yeah.
That was a weird mount, though. She was going so much slower. It's like a chocobo.
Hunt begin.
Chocobo. Okay. Oh.
When we started to work on the Ranger, we knew
Got
we
a
had
fight
to make
going.
a class with high agility. The dream of fast bow gameplay is Legolas, so that's what we wanted to deliver.
Legolas.
The starting point is moving while shooting a bow. Any kind of basic arrow skill can be fired while moving, with a movement penalty.
Okay,
This
it's not
immediately
bad.
gives you a lot more freedom on the battlefield. Here, I'm starting each battle with a poison burst arrow to poison groups of enemies, then using a lightning arrow to arc lightning around larger packs. For even more mobility, we also have a variety of skills that involve vaulting around the battlefield too. This is Frost Escape. Using it jumps backwards and shoots a freezing arrow at the ground. Really useful if monsters close on you and you need to get away. Once you've landed, if monsters were frozen, it'd be nice to have some way to take advantage of that extra time. This is where Snipe comes in. Snipe is a skill shot that you need to charge up and release at exactly the right time. If you
So what
land the
happens if
right
you don't?
timing, Snipe is guaranteed to produce a critical strike and does a small AoE as well, so it's a great finisher. You can also move while shooting arrow rain skills too. This skill is Lightning Rod. It shoots an arrow into the air that sticks into the ground and does a small AoE. Once the rods are in the ground though, they attract any arcs of lightning that are nearby, causing them to explode again.
Oh, that looks...
This means you can stack up a bunch of lightning rods
If
in
you
the
do
ground
like a
and
crit
bounce lightning
cast on-
between them, doing way more damage.
Cast on attack? Or cast on crit?
Now this takes care of packs pretty well, but for bigger enemies, I'd like to have something that's going to enhance
Yeah.
my damage output too. This skill is Stormcaller Arrow. Using it sticks an arrow into an enemy. After a short period of time, a lightning bolt comes from the sky and strikes them. This has a high chance to shock them, and shocked enemies take 30% more damage from all sources. If something big walks
Okay.
along, it's a good idea to throw one of
good
these
for
at them
bosses.
first to enhance your damage, before following up with the other combo. Now, if I really want to enhance this combo, there are a couple of things I could do using our support gem system. Skills in Path of Exile are granted by items called skill gems. Each skill gem has colored sockets in it, and these sockets are for other items called support gems. Support gems modify your skills, and it's where a huge amount of the customization of your character comes from. First, I'm going to take this multiple projectile support gem. I could add it to my lightning arrow, and it would fire multiple arrows. This would increase the number of targets I can hit, but that isn't the effect that I'm after. If I add it to my lightning rod skill instead, then when I fire it, I get a nice group of rods. This means that I don't have to spend as much time setting up before I can use it with my lightning arrow combo. I might also add faster projectiles to make the lightning rods land faster.
Groups of rods.
Now next up is the chain support gem. Chaining causes many effects to repeat on new targets when you hit them. If I add it to my lightning arrow, it will cause the arcs that come out of lightning arrow to strike even more targets.
It's bright.
Rippling along my line of
It is bright
for huge amounts of damage.
But also, side note, that just means that look at the lighting.
Yeah.
It's like in general, lighting in this is fucking next level, bro.
Now I think we can use support gems to improve storm. Let's start simple. I'm going to chuck less duration.
Keep it at 1080 for us for the
stream. This will
stream.
cause the lightning from the sky to strike a bit faster. Next up, we have a support called shock proliferation.
Shock proliferation.
This support makes it so that any enemies shocked by the skill will also have the shock jump to nearby enemies, meaning they'll take the extra damage as well. It's just a chance to proc, so it's not going to proc on every single pack, but when it does, a pack will go down ultra quick.
Ultra quick.
Another useful empowering skill is Barrage. Barrage is one of the rare cooldown skills in PoE 2. It enhances whatever your next attack is to fire 3 times.
Oh, nice.
With what we have here, I think it might be a good idea to use it with Lightning Arrow. It'll generate 3 times as many lightning explosions. You could also use it at just the right moment with Snipe, or any number of other skills depending on what effect you need more of right now. It's very versatile and can be used in a range of situations. Now, even as mobile as the Ranger is,
he almost died.
It's very useful to slow monsters down, and a Ranger certainly
due
has
to floor fire.
If you're prepared to get up close and personal, we have a skill called Electrocuting Rod. First, jump over the enemy and shoot it into them. Once the rod's in place, any lightning damage they take will build up a special electrocute gauge. Once the gauge is full, the monster is totally suppressed, allowing you to kill them easily.
It's a lot of rods and lightning. like lightning.
Sometimes when you use Electrocuting Rod, the enemy dies before you get a chance to electrocute them. I think there's another support gem I could add to my lightning arrow to fix this problem. Neural Overload will make it easier to electrocute enemies. If the skill it's attached to puts them over 50% of their electrocute bar, it will trigger instantly.
Bro, don't die.
Ooh, look at the pack size.
Yeah, the game beefy.
Now this skill works really well for suppressing a single large enemy, but I'd like to improve my crowd control ability for groups as well. I'm going to add a support gem called Frozen Nexus to my Frost Escape. This makes an area of chilled ground around frozen enemies. I'll also add Deep Freeze to it as well, which will make the freezes last a bit longer. Now when I use my Frost Escape on that front enemy, others nearby are slowed down. It would also be good if I had a way to slow enemies down when they're farther away from me as well. So this would be a great time to start getting into the Ranger's poison and plant-based skill set. To start with, let's have a look at Vine Arrow. This skill fires an arrow into the air that creates
just being able to swap out the skill like that.
Well, the Vine Arrow
sends out tendrils to nearby enemies, slowing them down and poisoning them.
Nice.
But it does have another function too. If the plant gets further poisoned, it transfers that poison to the monsters it's attached to. Normally you would only be able to get 1 stack of poison on a monster at a time, but you can put as much poison as you want on this plant.
Okay.
You could just use the plant to slow monsters down and not worry about the poison.
Good for bosses. Imagine you put a
a
bunch of those down.
Poison, this is the way to do it. Now if you do want to focus
it depends on
more,
stack poison build.
But that's the thing. I don't know if that's going to be able to stack.
If you wait
it says you can stack as much poison on you want on the plants. That then gives
like
it
any
over
other plant
to
skill, these plants respond well
as
to
damage
poison.
to whatever's attached
Shoot the
to.
poison burst arrow at enemies nearby and watch your
There's a
plants
limit
get
of how
more
much
and more
stacks
powerful.
you can do towards
Poisoning the pustules causes
enemy,
them to do much
but
more
not
damage and makes
towards
them
the
explode
plant.
much faster as well.
That's what he said.
I can also add the Pierce support to Poison Burst Arrow. Doing this will mean I get multiple poison bursts as it goes through each monster. We also have another skill to make
Really
it
not
nice and
excited
easy
about
for your
still
plants
seeing
to grow.
gold.
Gas Cloud Arrow.
Yeah.
This skill
And
shoots
they
the
haven't
ground
really
and
forecasted
creates a
anything
cloud
they're
of
gonna do with
gas
it, though.
that
That's the
continuously
thing.
poisons things inside it.
They're keeping that very close to their chest.
Throw your plants down, then put a gas cloud on top. The constant poisoning will make them grow.
Gas arrow. I feel like that's a meme.
Another poison-related skill we have on the Ranger is called Plague Bearer. This is a reservation skill, meaning it uses spirit.
Oh, Plague Bearer.
When I enable it, I get this counter that counts up whenever I apply poison to a monster. You can see the counter on the skill increasing as each new monster is poisoned. Now I'm going to fight these monsters and make sure to poison them as much as I can to build up the counter.
There's also a count on the top left corner.
Mm-hmm.
It does take quite a while to get the counter up to 100%, but it's worth it. Whenever I choose, I can unleash the poison in a big explosion around my character, dealing a large amount of damage.
Okay.
Now next up we have a classic, Rain of Arrows.
I'm not sure if I'd like the change to
Shoot a
Plague
bunch of
Bearer.
arrows in the sky, and they rain down for a short time. It's decent AoE and damage at long range.
It's pretty straightforward.
Now this skill doesn't last too long, but we can change that. It's time to introduce Frenzy Charges. Frenzy Charges are used for a variety of skills on the Ranger, but with Rain of Arrows they can be used to extend the duration.
You're mine.
How do we get some though?
Mm-hmm.
Here we have a skill called Sniper's Mark. Put it on an enemy and it will grant you a Frenzy Charge when you crit them. Now remember that snipe skill from earlier? That skill guarantees a critical hit. So first we Sniper's Marked an enemy, then we sniped them. And after that, the next Rain of Arrows will last a really, really long time.
Seems like a lot of buttons.
We still have some weaknesses though. While Rain of Arrows hits
Did
enemies
they
with
just
a ton
move
of arrows,
the
each
screen?
one doesn't do much damage
No,
individually.
it's the ad.
It would be nice if we had a way to break the armor on enemies so that Rain of Arrows dealt more damage.
I'm in full
Thankfully,
screen.
we have this corrode armor.
So am I,
support.
but
We can
it
put
keeps
on our
putting
gas
up an
cloud.
ad on the side of the fucking screen and
Corrode
moving
armor
the goddamn
causes
thing
poison to
over.
erode the armor
I
on
have
targets
not
until it's
experienced
all
that so
gone.
far.
This will significantly increase the damage that Rain of Arrows does against armored targets.
Detonating arrow.
Oh yeah, and one more thing about gas clouds. They can be detonated with explosions. I have an explosive arrow here. Let's check it out.
Still.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That's a cool interaction.
Yeah.
Now, because monsters and gas clouds are likely to have their armor broken, I think there's another useful combo we can do. This is an exploit weakness support. This support provides extra bonus damage to targets that have their armor broken. Perfect for what we have going on here. So, those are just some of the skills
I'm not
we have
gonna
available in the
lie,
class
I
in
don't-
Path of Exile 2.
I don't
Now
like
that
what
we've seen all these
they're doing
skills,
to the
Let's
Ranger.
see how well they do against a much tougher enemy.
Then again, I guess this is all without like skills and shit. Like you know, it's just
It's a new boss.
feels so bad or looks bad.
Well, I'm trying to make a strafe character where you can keep attacking even if you're moving.
That's two. They have this and they have the mercenary. They're both straight characters. Moving while attacking is what they do. It's just like, don't get me wrong, fine.
I feel like it's redundant.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're gonna have one that have fights with crossbows, why not? Give the ranger that. That's
Well, it's a gun. I don't know.
it's a handheld crossbow.
I know, bro. I'm just saying shit,
And
man.
they usually use the artillery one, which is the big one. It's more like a Gatling gun or whatever.
Like, I'm not gonna lie. I do like the boss fight.
The boss fight looks nice. Yeah. You can tell a lot have gone into the bosses. Every boss that they've shown so far has been pretty, like just generically pretty, and then very mechanically friendly. A lot of movement, which scares me when it comes to melees. Like, I wonder how they're gonna balance melees when it comes to these. Because if you look around, this person cannot stay still more than a couple of seconds.
Yeah, they're also made of fucking nothing. Like, this person was dying nearly to fucking
That
just
skill
normal
looks
odds.
like was it serious or
Serious, yeah.
kind of looks
No,
like innocence.
that's
Innocence,
innocent.
too.
Yeah. It is innocence, not serious.
He just canceled his animation. I may have to look that back up in recording later. Looked like he looked like he was about to backflip and he canceled the animation.
Kill swiftly and move on. This is how you survive.
That beautiful gold.
That's the Ranger. But oh yeah, there was one more thing. The Mount.
The
Check this
mount.
out. Yes, you can ride a rower. While riding the rower, you can shoot
That's a
arrows
chocobo.
with
Fuck
no
you talking
movement
about?
penalty. It's pretty overpowered. You can also use your vaulting skills to jump right off the rower's back. Once the rower doesn't have a rider, it starts attacking monsters, so he's nice to have around, even if you're not riding him. That said, if you are riding, don't get hit. If you take a heavy stun while on a rower, you'll fall off, and it takes a while to get up, so be careful. So that's what I wanted to show you today. Now there is just one more rather unfortunate bit of news. Path of Exile 2's beta is going to be delayed. We previously said that we would get the beta out on June 7th.
I feel like
While
they're
I think we would
misusing
be
the
able to
word
get the game
overpowered.
ready in time, we underestimated how long it would take to get gameplay polished to a standard that we're happy with. We're still going to be doing alpha testing in June, but we're going to be delaying the beta until later in the year. I don't have an exact date for you today, but it should be towards the end of the year. In the meantime,
Well.
you can still play Path of Exile 1, of course. Now, speaking of PoE 1, we also have the 324 expansion to announce. I'm going to hand over to Mark, the game director on PoE 1, to show us
Great.
what's in store.
We had a lot of fun making this one, so let's just get straight into it.
Not
with the
excited.
trailer for Path of Exile.
Yeah, that kind of just killed all my hype.
Nothing I saw really was ground. Like I don't know, not. It's definitely groundbreaking, but it's just. Like,
I don't even see anything groundbreaking there, bro. A lot of those skills just seem like reskinned other skills. Like,
our job
Let's-
is to
oh,
keep
oh.
them where they belong.
Tales from the crib, bro.
It's your first night, so you'll need this. A ghostly lantern for ghastly tinkering.
Fuck.
You'll learn to peer into the soul.
yo, is this just like a boss rush? Let's go. Oh no.
Learn how to twist them.
I don't even know what the fuck is going on the screen. Like they do it so fast and don't explain anything.
Meet me in the necropolis.
Oh.
You can pilfer shiny things from a
So you're gonna
corpse,
have to manage a farm?
but you can pilfer glorious things from a soul. I need
What?
a grave digger.
Yo, okay.
It seemed
Yo, that animation was sick.
Scarab overall. New pen.
What? You can have multiple paths. Scarab overhaul.
Transfigured gems.
Penultimate bosses. Yes.
Oh, that's a boss right there. Look. Oh, that boss looked crazy.
Oh, dude, hell yeah, dog. Dude, is that the corrupted? Like a corrupted what? They're corrupted bosses. They're dead bosses.
The ghost bosses.
They're bosses we fought before. So
Yeah.
Brutus was early.
Yeah, and we had to
Uh,
notify them.
Scattered spirits
Oh, that's so cool.
For a mysterious purpose. These spirits have begun to haunt the monsters of Rayclast, unleashing their ancient fury and sorrow onto the world. The Undertaker will provide you with the Lantern of Aramor, a powerful family heirloom which can illuminate the wrathful spirits haunting monsters throughout Rayclast. With it, the Undertaker hopes to employ you to rid Rayclast of this menace, and further his cryptic cause.
Cool.
I gotta go necro. I gotta
The
go
lantern
necro.
can be used when entering any new area. When peering through it, you can examine the spirits haunting that area. The lantern also allows you to manipulate them, letting you configure which monsters are affected by which mods. It would be wise to take your time with your decisions here, for the spirits are not forgiving. When peering through the lantern, you can also see extra details about the packs of monsters in the area. Rowers here are considered common, whereas the water elementals are more scarce. If you want things to be easier, you can put the more difficult spirits on the elementals, which you'll encounter less often. We've tried to make sure that by engaging with the lantern, you are able to intelligently control the difficulty in the Necropolis League. The spirits come in a number of forms which represent the danger they pose. For example here, the infested vultures are servant haunted, causing them to deal a small amount of increased damage. But the Vol's Vanguard are noble haunted, causing them to deal a large amount of increased damage. As you reach higher level areas in Rayclast, the tier and number of spirits that are haunting monsters will generally increase.
What fucking skill is that?
Your game knowledge can help you here.
If
you're aware of the composition of a monster pack,
like that?
this means certain mods will be easier to manage. For example, the mod that increases a pack's damage for every monster killed has no effect on packs with a single monster, like a Devourer. However, if we found a spirit that makes the strongest monster in a pack deal 100% more damage, well, I'm going to avoid the Devourer. You might have noticed that the Lantern of Aramor provides other useful information, such as the types of abilities monsters use, or the damage types they deal. So for those who are less familiar with how these monsters work, this can be a great way to learn what you're up against. The spirits are constantly moving throughout Rayclast, so if you are finding a campaign area too difficult, you can just wait a few minutes and peer through the lantern again to see what's changed. Of course, powerful spirits beget powerful rewards. There are two reasons why you might want to face a challenge now and then. Firstly, not all the spirits are malicious. Sometimes the monsters aren't haunted at all, but are instead devoted. These can grant basic rewards like increased experience, or bigger rewards like spawning the Nameless Seer, an NPC that will grant you a single unique item after you defeat all of the packs affected by that spirit.
Bro!
The more haunted monsters you defeat in the previous area before using the lantern, the more likely the devoted monsters will appear.
I hope a few.
Monsters haunted by higher tier spirits will increase the chance of the devoted appearing even more, meaning that sometimes on very common monsters, if you're brave enough. Again, we've tried hard here to allow players to customize the danger and rewards as much as they can. Aramor is an undertaker, and you can probably guess what we're taking to him.
Oh, cool! Hey, look at that! Kitava!
From the Necropolis League is
that's not Kitava. I thought that was Kitava.
Once slain, their corpses need.
I thought that was Kitava. It looked like his face.
And he will offer to take them back to his necropolis and store them in the morgue.
I don't know who's worse. This guy or
When you're ready, you can visit the morgue to view the monsters you have collected, and then get to work burying them in one of many graves in Aramor's cemetery. For example, we will bury this Kitava's Herald. Aramor's mysterious soul experiments can coalesce powerful items. Here I've chosen to create a pair of boots.
It's like another fucking way of crafting. Lord, help me.
These boots are useful for my character, but aren't exactly what I hoped for. And this is where the Necropolis crafting system really shines.
So you make plus them with fleetness.
Earlier had a crafting effect on it. In fact, all collected corpses do. If you bury multiple corpses in the cemetery, all adjacent corpses can be exercised at once to create one item. All of the crafting effects on those corpses will apply to that same
item.
Or many different crafting projects ongoing in the cemetery. For example, next time I try to create books,
this is gonna be so much.
of getting move speed modifiers. To go further, I could use these to generate higher tier modifiers.
He's just using all of them.
Try to bias it towards being. Finally, I'll apply some crafting effects.
Yeah, he used 8
probability of
different bodies.
Now, let's craft our item and see what we get.
Wait, he used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bodies? 1, 2, 3, 4. 8, 9. Yeah, 9 bodies.
As you can see now,
Well, at least you don't make them like that and then have to fight anything. You just kind of get a piece of gear.
You could even use the entire cemetery.
He used the entire field of bodies.
Always
Yeah,
something you
for
can
that
do to try and
mess
ensure
set of
your
boots, yeah.
will be as best as it can be. We hope to see some really crazy gravecrafts.
It's
If you're lucky,
syndicated.
you might
Did he
find
show it?
corpses with
Did he
major
show the
crafting
item?
modifiers. These can be buried to
They just showed you. They got
manipulate crafting
influenced.
tactics in more
And then he
drastic
showed what it was.
This one increases the potency of all crafting effects of adjacent undead corpses.
Oh my
Another
god, this is
metacrafting
like
modifier gives a chance to drop an extra item from your craft.
this is like
with all
Ironheart
the
and
same
Harvest
crafting outcomes applied. All you have to do is bury a lot of undead monsters.
with a sprinkle of iron. Oh my gosh. I like the gameplay. I don't think I'm thrilled about this item making thing.
You can also craft new unique items exclusive to the Necropolis League using this system. As you explore Rayclast, you might find the corpses of famous Eternal Empire families. And when you bury an entire family together and exorcise them, they will thank you with a unique specific to their lineage.
Bro.
For example, the Navalius Inheritance Belt.
Okay.
I'll give you a moment to check that out.
Flask.
You can use other corpses alongside them to grant implicit mods, manipulate the values of explicit mods, and more. In this case, with the Parandus Pact, you can even change the modifiers it generates. This unique is
That
a
belt
jewel
was
which
trash.
adds extra stats to passive skills in a radius when socketed into the passive skill tree. The stats it adds are randomly generated, but you can bias it towards a specific type by using other crafting effects, such as this one, which increases the chance of getting life modifiers. Let's see what we get. We didn't get it this time. I guess we're going to have to go and collect more corpses. Of course, you can trade the corpses away to other players. All you need to do is purchase empty coffins from the Undertaker and use them on your corpses in the morgue, which will itemize them.
Okay.
Another item in the Necropolis League that you can find are Embers of the All-Flame. These are monster spirits that remain living in the All-Flame, a powerful ancient artifact of Rayclast. And you can set them free by placing them in the Lantern of Aramor.
I think this is what I'm going to league start.
These embers drop
Poison
throughout
concoction.
Rayclast as itemized packs of monsters. You are able to use these packs to replace the packs in areas. For example, we have found this All-Flame Ember of Tarfoa. We can now go to enter the next area and replace one of the monster packs in here. You can see we have also gotten one of the devoted modifiers to appear. We can pair up the Karui ancestors with this modifier, making them even more rewarding. Let's go ahead and replace the Tentacle Miscreations. However, when replacing packs, you want to double check their density, as the new pack will inherit the density of the replaced pack. The Karui ancestors we have now added to our area can even drop basic variations of tattoos. If you aren't aware, this is an item type from the Trial of the Ancestors League, which can be used on passive skills to change what they do. There are many different types of itemized packs.
Oh, wow.
You find Breach and Legion monsters that drop splinters, Untainted packs that
They
provide
came back.
insane amounts of experience, and even simple frogs, which
You're
can be
gonna
used to
need
replace
this as
difficult
another thing
monsters
for
to make life easier.
end game party play.
And of course,
Yeah.
these Ember monsters can be raised as specters too. Finally, let's discuss how this league works in in-game maps. Each in-game map will allow you to manipulate it using the lantern on the map device UI. However, instead of randomly cycling every few minutes, it is fixed to that map. Once you view the map through the lantern, you cannot remove it from the map device, so you can't trade that map away now that you've seen it as too difficult for you, or has monsters in it that you'd rather avoid, like porcupines. We're also trying something new this time around. During the Necropolis League, there will be support for the League on the Atlas passive tree. Multiple clusters will be there, allowing you to enhance the gameplay, customize it, and even change its behavior in meaningful ways. One way that you can change the crafting in a meaningful way is with the Prospero's Wager Keystone. With this keystone, all the monsters with unresolved anguish come with this crafting modifier, which causes them to generate a random craft when buried.
Okay.
This means instead of pre-planning your crafts, you have to adapt to them on the fly to get the best results.
Oh.
These clusters will not be available in Standard League. In 3.24, we've made a plethora of changes to the endgame.
Jesus
We've
Christ, that's a
introducing
lot
new
to take in.
bosses, adding another tier of maps,
Indeed.
and streamlining the Atlas. The most difficult and most rewarding content in Path of Exile can be found in Uber Pinnacle bosses.
But porcupines are still in the game.
Raven and the Searing Exarch. Currently, the only way to access these bosses is by allocating specific keystones on the Atlas passive tree. While this system offers a nice element of control, it causes a problem. Rewards and access to the non-Uber variants are now economically priced around the rewards of the Uber fights. This means it is wasteful to run the non-Uber variants instead of simply selling them. Another problem that we noticed is the difficulty jump between the Pinnacle and Uber Pinnacle content was relatively large, and there wasn't obvious content that could bridge this gap. Many players would give up on their characters before being able to defeat the Uber Pinnacle bosses. In 3.24, we will be making some changes to this. We are removing the keystones that give access to the Uber Pinnacle bosses from the Atlas tree, and instead we'll be adding a new set of fragments that give you access
Jesus
to this
Christ.
content. Where do you get these fragments? We are adding a new tier of maps, Tier 17 maps, which not only give you access to the Uber Pinnacle content, but also test your characters in new ways. They feature a new set of bosses, Uber monsters, and a new tier of modifiers that can roll on the maps. There are 5 new Tier 17 maps in total. with
Party
some
play is
surprising
gonna
boss
be
fights at the end.
fucking insane.
We'll look at a couple today, and the rest you'll have to discover for yourself. First, we have the Citadel map. This map contains an ancient Kalguran citadel. You will encounter many expedition monsters as the signature packs throughout the map. At the end, you will fight Uber Uhtred. This is a version of a boss from Expedition League, with all its abilities and mechanics enhanced. Uber Uhtred will even be able to summon 2 other expedition bosses to aid it during the fight.
Oh,
Second,
wow.
we
Just
have
creamed your
the
pants, didn't you?
fortress map. This
A
map
little
is
bit.
An impregnable fortress, guarded by
I
monsters
know what
from
map I
the
want to run.
At the end, you will encounter an Uber version of the Unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
Again,
This
it has
boss is
enhanced abilities and
actually
mechanics you'll have to learn and overcome.
from
Each of the
Heist.
Tier 17 map
The red
bosses
one.
has a chance to drop a unique item, allowing for some target farming.
This is
However,
Katarina.
these
No?
aren't
Yeah, it
entirely
is.
new unique
Yep.
items. Instead, we've taken other unique items, removing them from the core drop pool, and rebalancing them to fit here. One example is this reworked version of Wraith Lord. It has 4 Abyss sockets, and allows you to summon an additional Spectre for each Ghastly Eye jewel socketed into it.
Bro, that's not bad.
Another example is the Moonstorm. This has been
Uh,
rebalanced to grant a lot more damage than before, alongside some more impactful
wow.
stats, if you can get lucky rolls. Alongside adding Tier 17 maps, we have also changed the Uber Pinnacle bosses to have completely distinct unique item drop pools from their non-Uber counterparts. This means there is a reason to farm both versions. Let's take a look at the Shaper versus the Uber
Oh,
Shaper.
nice.
The Shaper will drop these uniques: Voidwalker,
That actually
Shaper's
makes me
Touch,
really happy.
Solstice Vigil, and Dying Sun. Whereas the Uber Shaper will drop these: Echoes of Creation, Sublime Vision, Entropic Devastation, Starforge, and a new unique belt called the Tides
Makes
of
sense.
Time. Another example of a new unique is this helmet from the Uber Eater of Worlds, Ravenous Passion.
Oh.
From the Uber Searing Exarch, the Celestial Brace. Each of the Uber Pinnacle bosses has a new unique added to their drop pools. We've identified another major problem with the endgame we'd like to address. With every expansion added to the game, we have been increasing the complexity of running maps.
Yes.
It's at the point now where a player must repeatedly execute a large sequence of steps to run maps efficiently.
Yes.
It can be easy to forget critical steps, and it can be tiring to repeat them. To solve this, we are
Takes an
removing
hour
some
or two just to
systems,
prep for maps.
but are keeping what is good about them. The 2 main systems we've removed are Sextants and the Master Mission Selector. It is not our intention to dull the content, however. We have completely reworked Scarabs to include most of the options that were previously covered by those mechanics, and many, many more. Let's take a look at some of them. Commonly, you might find Scarabs that simply grant access to different content. Here, we have a Scarab that causes Beyond Demons to spawn when killing monsters in your maps. And here, we have one that adds a Delirium Mirror. Each type of Scarab now has multiple versions, so if you want to fully invest in a type of content, you can do so. Here's a suite of Ultimatum Scarabs. This Ultimatum Scarab adds an Ultimatum encounter to a map.
Oh, wow.
This Ultimatum Scarab of bribing then causes that Ultimatum encounter to grant better rewards and its monsters to yield more experience. This Ultimatum Scarab of dueling will cause that Ultimatum encounter to always guarantee the Trial Master boss fight at the end, assuming you can survive through all the rounds. This Ultimatum Scarab of catalyzing will cause all rewards from that ultimatum to be catalysts, instead of other rewards. And finally, this Ultimatum Scarab of Inscription will cause all catalyst rewards from that ultimatum to be inscribed ultimatums instead. There are plenty of others. If you enjoy divination card farming, you might want to use these. This Divination Scarab of Curation causes more divination cards to drop for each different favored map you have selected. But it also causes whatever map you're running to only drop divination cards from those favored maps. So if you want to try and aim for your Mage Blood and don't want to just farm Crimson Temple, then this Scarab is for you. This Divination Scarab of Completion causes your divination cards to have a 20% chance to drop as a full stack
Oh,
instead,
wow.
Basically, there are now just a lot of Scarabs.
Oh my
you
Jesus.
Might have also
Look
noticed
at
that.
that.
We no longer have tiers. Scarabs are now all world drops. You can get them anywhere.
Wow.
Some might be rarer than others, but the intention is that there'll be a lot more options than before, and more interesting combinations to consider. If you want to target specific Scarabs, Betrayal has been updated to include most of them, and you will need to relearn which ones come from where. While this system is allowing you to heavily invest in one type of content, it is reducing your capacity for variety. To address this, we have massively increased access to content on the Atlas passive tree. You are now able to reliably get different leagues like Breach or Legion from just your Atlas passives.
Alright.
Regarding master missions, content such as Incursion, Delve, Betrayal, and Bestiary, these too are now accessible with Scarabs, and have more reliable investment options on the tree. Not only this, you can now get Jun, Einhar, Alva, and Nico to appear together in the same map. We have also removed some keystones such as Wandering Path, Grand Design, and Growing Hordes, but have added some new ones too. For example, Unwavering Vision,
20
Back to Basics, and Thorough Exploration. And we have added some new notables such as Remarkable Relics, which allows you to try find better variants of Scarabs. Mounting Modifiers, which increases the values of modifiers on your maps by 2% for each explicit modifier. And Tainted Carapaces, which is just one in a set of many that allow you to target farm specific types of Scarabs. These are just a few of the many new notables that can be found on the Atlas
this
passive
thing is
skill
getting
tree.
so much bigger.
Lastly,
Oh my
we are
gosh.
giving you more flexibility in what content you want to run in the endgame. In 3.24, you can now have multiple copies of the Atlas tree, which can be
That's
swapped
very
between
convenient.
maps at your leisure. You can unlock up to
You can name
2
them.
extra trees for a total of 3 by progressing through the endgame and completing core content.
Yeah.
Are they
When
gonna
you
sell
open a map,
premium
you
ones?
can select which tree you would like to use. For a given league,
They said
you'll
they're
never
giving
feel
you 2 for
constrained to
free,
playing your
so yeah.
endgame a single way. You can also label your trees to easily identify
Oh,
which one has
beautiful.
which content. With all this combined,
Oh,
you can
wow.
see new endgame
Wow,
strategies
wow, wow,
shine
wow. He has it labeled OPMS
While
strat.
playing through the campaign in 3.24, you'll notice
they're
a
not gonna
myriad
do
of
it with
small
BMF.
improvements and surprises.
I just find that shit
The
funny.
fundamentals of the campaign are still intact, but we've scattered fun encounters and secrets throughout Rayclast. The Dweller
Alright.
of the Deep has been trapped. What are these ritual shrines doing in the Northern Forest? And why are they giving me omens? This device looks safe. I should definitely use this on my items.
Okay.
There are plenty more encounters to discover. We'll continue adding more surprises in future releases, so keep an eye out.
All right, I actually
wait, it's not finished. It's not finished.
We released a large number of transfigured skill gems. These are alternate versions of
No,
existing
he's
skill
finished.
gems that function
Well, I was
in
looking
very
at
different
this
ways,
transfigured. I was
allowing for
trying to
more
look at the
build
transfigured
and gameplay
gems.
variety.
Oh my god, am I
At the
behind
time,
again?
Our aspirations were higher than we could achieve. We planned more
Talking
gems
about
than we could
transfigured
make.
gems.
So, in 324, we're adding another set of transfigured gems that we have now finished. Ice Shot, Incinerate, Artillery Ballista, Tornado, Elemental Hit, Kinetic Blast, getting
another
Poisonous Concoction,
transfigured.
and lastly, Summon Holy Relic.
Summon Holy Relic.
Hopefully those of you who missed your favorite skill having a transfigured
Ballista
variant will
is
get
getting a
that
transfigured
here.
gem too.
We will certainly be adding more of these in the future.
Oh, cool.
Especially for skills that are
My
missing in
league
the
start is getting one.
Of course, we'll also be doing a balance pass on the existing transfigured gems. One of the main ones we're looking at is Kinetic Bolt of Fragmentation. As a result of this change, it is clear that the in-game potential of the Wander archetype really starts to suffer, mostly in the single target damage department. Due to this, we've added the new support gem, Sacred Wisps. This support gem causes supported skills to create 2 attached wisps for a duration. With these wisps, whenever you attack, they have a chance to also use the same skill, if you have enemies in your presence. And if there are any rare or unique enemies, they will always use the skill.
Oh, wow.
That leads us into all the other quality of life features we're introducing in 324. And there's a shitload of them. Many of these have been revealed in teasers already, but here's a quick summary. We've added the automation and call to arms skill gems, for being able to trigger instant skills and war cries without having to bind them to left click.
Using that real quick.
You can now hold down control and left click to automatically apply certain currency orbs until they achieve the desired result, or you run out. For example, you can hold down fusings until you reach maximum links. You will be able to control, shift, click currency into a trade window to automatically move all of that currency at once from your inventory. Detonate Dead now has clearer telegraphing effects.
Yes.
When harvest crafting, the item hover will always be visible, so you no longer have to mouse back and forth to see the results of your crafts. When you use a Val Orb on a map, the map no longer has a chance to become unidentified.
Oh, thank you.
Instead, it adds a new implicit. We've created a set of implicits that affect the areas in fun ways.
That's great.
Related to that, corrupted and mirrored items can now be identified. Breach hands now open upon approach, and no longer need to be clicked. Upgrades to Pantheon powers now apply to all characters in a league. You no longer need to grind divine vessels on each new character.
Nice.
With harvest
See that
crafting,
last
you can
epic?
now re-roll
You see that?
into Elder fragments. Fragments dropped by the Shaper cannot be re-rolled into fragments dropped by the Elder, and vice versa.
Oh, that's actually really good.
Removing Ashling's crafting bench as a reward. Instead, Veiled Orbs now perform that function. They remove a mod and replace it with a Veiled mod.
Nice.
These orbs now drop from Katarina and are no longer a world drop.
Oh, target farming.
Corrupted by Val Orbs.
Oh,
Giving
God.
-10 to +10 quality. The capability to add extra quality to weapons, armors, and flasks has been removed from Betrayal. The Betrayal bench craft that converts an amulet to a talisman has been moved to Bestiary, and thus can be traded. Maven invitations no longer drop. Instead, when you have completed witnessing all bosses required to go to the Maven's arena, you can just talk to Kerak, and he'll open a map device window with the invitation already in there, ready to be rolled. Valdo's maps that granted invitations now give scarabs. No more having to waste Guardian kills to try get invitations to drop. Next up, we're going to be talking about our new League supporter packs. Today, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs.
You want to see the supporter packs too?
Solar and Eldritch packs.
Yep.
Each tier contains the full pack's face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. These packs are only available for the duration of the Necropolis League, and will leave the store forever when it ends. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic, and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way.
Makes it more aerodynamic.
The Solar series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions.
Makes it cooler at least.
Weapon effect adorns your weapon with stars.
Stars.
Hitting enemies causes cosmic energy to spill out into the area around them. The Radiant Orb of Chance extra effect projects the outcome of items you've used an Orb of Chance on above your head. Remember to congratulate other exiles in town if you see them chance a powerful unique item. Shine boldly with the Solar Knight armor set. The power of the sun radiates from your body, getting more and more intense as you use skills and emitting solar flares as you run.
That's cool.
With the Supernova level up extra effect, the dead will be raised from the ground around you before being obliterated and turned to ash by an epic supernova whenever you level up. This one is my personal favorite. The Cosmic Turtle
fucking
turtle, infinite expanse of the cosmos atop the back of a colossal turtle.
That's so cool.
The turtle.
Carry the weight of the sun on your back with the
Please tell me you're gonna get it.
Back attachment. Witness it grow larger and larger.
Nah,
we have a sugar daddy. Might get it.
Yeah. We have to have him gift it to the I hope they help with the guild hideouts. They don't think they did.
The Eldritch Patch series also has 6 exclusive microtransactions. Are you wondering
what the fuck? That's so cool.
In the latest patch? Don't be fooled, because with the Mimic Stash
Jesus.
players can transform into an image of a stash when in a town or hideout and scare unsuspecting exiles. This pet follows behind you with its terrifying hand walking the rest of the time.
Oh my gosh, what in the hell?
The finisher effect sends slain unique enemies into a final
unending darkness.
Oh my gosh.
The Eldritch Hunger armor set contains a beast that demands you defeat it by embracing your bloodlust. Watch it grow in power the more you kill until it bursts from the shell of the helmet. Are you able to satiate its hunger?
Dude, that looks dope.
The seed within the corrupted growth map device
that looks cool.
The more maps you complete on your atlas. Equipping the Headhunter character effect.
That's fucking gross.
Slain rare enemies to whirl around you like trophies. They become enraged when you are near a rare enemy you are yet to kill, wishing for them to join your collection.
Oh, that's so cool.
Witness a reality where the struggle didn't exist, allowing the Eldritch Horrors to settle their own conflicts with the Eldritch Horror Apparition effect. Which of the Eater of Worlds or Searing Exarch do you think will win? These packs are now available for purchase on PC and console, and will remain so during Path of Exile and Necropolis.
Damn,
meanwhile, the Shade and Disciple packs leave the store forever at the launch of Necropolis League.
Damn,
so now's your last chance to purchase them. Thank you so much for your ongoing support.
Damn, bro.
We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Path of Exile Necropolis' full patch notes.
Fuck, bro. Fuck.
Our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for Necropolis' release.
Fuck,
Keep an eye on the news. On release weekend, we expect to launch the new mystery box.
I don't want to give them that much money at once.
Thank you for joining us today and checking out our latest developments.
Why do I feel like I don't have a choice?
Gravecrafts and conquering the new in-game bosses with you next week. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
Man, POE 1 still gets me hype. Still fucking hype.
I am highly impressed with the. Let me mute this. Doesn't bother me. I'm highly impressed by the quality of life changes that they're making. In some ways, they are looking at both sides of like the end game, and then also like new players.
Yeah,
and then finding a very comfortable middle ground of life.
There's a couple things that I'm not like super excited about. It's just kind of like, you know, a thing. Oh, well.
For today, I'm joined by Jonathan and Mark, and first thing we're going to be talking about Path of Exile 1.
Oh, they started it over.
That you'll be getting your hands on.
Well, no, it's doing ZD right now.
I know, but the first part where it was I'm Chris from Grinding Your Games, I don't think he was actually there.
And also some of the other stuff that came up during the recent hands-on event. But good morning, Jonathan and Mark. How are you going?
Hey, really nice to be here again.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having us.
Always a pleasure. I love talking to you folks about Path of Exile, right? So let's kick things off with the new league, Necropolis. And I just want to ask, should I ask about Lycia and Katarina and what it means for them to be involved, especially since they're like characters that are actively present elsewhere in the game in another mechanic right now? Like, what does that mean?
we bent the rules a little bit on that teaser. They're not actually involved. They're only in the sense that they are both T17 map bosses. So you don't actually fight them together, but we thought it would make a cool, little teaser shot there. And I think it did raise a lot of questions. So yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I was like, we're just doing some timey-wimey stuff. Oh, they both kind of like deal with death, so there's a bit of a connection there.
Like when you get into maps, everything's all memories and the line gets a bit blurred. You can kind of do whatever you want, which is a good thing about that system. You don't have to stay so grounded and sensible. But so yeah, we do have some interesting encounters going on there that are a bit different. But
that's true.
It's again, the maps allow us to kind of detach from the groundedness of the world and the rules of what's actually happening in there.
It looks like there's a lot of boss stuff coming this league. Is that all focused in the new T17 maps, or is there some with the league mechanic itself as well?
No, we focused the monster development this time round on the T17s instead of the league. So there's no new bosses in the league, but there are some reuse of monsters through like the All-Flame Embers and whatnot, but not bosses. And then, we put all our boss development towards creating these T17 bosses, as well as the monsters. Like, there are quite a lot of actual interesting monsters in the T17 maps as well. Like, I don't know if people saw, but you can get Brutus as just a monster. Like, he's not a boss. There are packs of Brutuses and, various other monsters throughout the non-notable ones, which will be quite interesting to see.
Oh, that's
You'll probably
interesting.
find a rare hasted Brutus is a whole different level compared to even the Brutus map boss and whatnot. So.
Yes,
is T17 only going to be farmable?
For those of us there who empowered that boss.
You don't need a real beefy ass
to be sure.
build.
So we'll kind of change my order of the day then with the tier 17 maps. So there's 4 of these, was there?
We've got 5 of them. We've got the Ziggurat map, Sanctuary map, Fortress map, Abomination map, and Citadel map being the 5.
And these are like effectively Uber maps, but we kind of also had Uber maps last league in a different way with the community-made maps as well. But this is a whole different system, right?
This is different. Obviously, the Valdo's maps come with a little bit more craziness going on. There are custom mod pools on these, and there is a little bit of overlap, but nowhere near as crazy. Like you're not going to roll the mod that sends you to the Void League or anything like that. That's exclusive for those player-made ones. But yes, this is a new tier of difficulty. It is expected that they are hard, for sure, but I'm sure some of your questions get into some of that, so
yeah,
I'll explain them as it comes.
So these are the primary vehicle now for getting like the Uber fight keys. What led to the decision to make them come from a tier 17 separate map thing like this instead of from the boss, which I guess was the more expected, like you would get an Uber Maven key from Maven?
Let's say it was from Shaper, and to get Uber Shaper, and you kill your Shaper, let's say it was even once every time, and now you kill your Uber Shaper, or let's say you fail, that's fine, but eventually you conquer it, you can kill it. It's not now fun to go back and do regular Shaper where clearly you can do the Uber version. Why are you bothering with the non-Uber version? So unless you want a specific drop from him, it's not fun to go back and just do like a clearly lower grade quality. So we instead went with it going a different way where we have something that is ideally in between those 2 points of difficulty and has random variance. Like you'll find that some of the tier 17 map bosses with certain mod combinations are probably even harder than the Uber Pinnacles, depending on your character and all of those variables there. I wouldn't say that's going to happen entirely consistently, like it'll be occasionally the case, but it certainly isn't fun to just be like, in order to do Uber Shaper, I have to do this content that I have clearly proven capable of doing, and just repeating that over and over.
I see, yeah. So it's for the people who want to farm the good ones. They're doing content that is...
So basically, he just said that you have a small chance when you first start doing these that you're just going to get gapped by your first boss.
I mean, that's just
so the tier 17 maps, when you get more void stones, it has a chance to
Like,
convert.
Run in there and
T16
run into
to
something
drop.
that it's literally impossible for you
common
to
are
kill.
these
It becomes
maps, though? You
multiplicatively
know what I mean?
higher. But there
That's
is
true.
a kind
Like,
of
because the
diminishing
Conqueror
returns
maps are
on
not that common
Um,
unless you start specking
so
into them, and then maybe
it's
you'll start
quite
getting
probable to convert
a
T16
nice pool
maps
of them,
like
but
the first
they're
one,
not
and then
that
as you get
common.
more T17s, it becomes less and less and less. And the reason we did that is obviously the discrepancy between just running regular T16s and obviously top tier juicing. You end up with like the multiplier difference of the amount of T16s dropping is substantial to say the least. And we didn't want it to be that we have to balance around the juicing with respect to getting T17s. We wanted to be that more accessible across the board. And so, yes, we added a kind of diminishing return. So, like, your first one might be quite probable, the next one's less, and the next one less, and then you're not going to get, 20 T17s in one map kind of thing going on.
Right.
It is also worth noting T17s cannot drop T17s. They are not self-sustaining. The intention is that you are still kind of doing T16s and occasionally diving into T17s, unless you want to trade, of course, in which case, the world's your oyster.
So I saw they have their own new mod pool, and we saw things. One of the mods I saw was Ray Monsters remove 10% life, mana, and ES on hit. The mana removed on hit seems to break a lot of builds in particular whenever that sort of thing comes up, as mana is generally a pretty finely tuned system in Path of Exile. And it gets me thinking in general about mods like 80% reduced recovery and things that disable auras and stuff like that. And it feels just a bit not too dissimilar to monsters just being immune to your build, right? So what's the intention behind those sorts of modifiers in maps?
It certainly was the ideal dream back when, that there are a lot of modifiers that can't be done by every build and you'd re-roll them and whatnot. Now, obviously, in the context of T17s, you can't re-roll them. So this really is... you should either change your playstyle, take your time, be a bit more careful to do it, or you can trade it away, of course.
Get good,
or
scrub.
Maybe you simply can't run it on that character, and you have to maybe build a different character that is capable of doing, or more characters that are capable of doing different maps. There is one tool, though, that is in the form of a scarab. One of the scarabs gives you additional crafting modifiers on your map device. It isn't a common scarab by any means. You can't just use it on every T17. But two of the extra crafting mods that get applied to the map device is that prefixes are disabled and suffixes are disabled. So you can pick one of those. So if you do get one of these T17s, I do expect sometimes, and you're like, I can't run it because of this modifier.
Oh,
you can
wow.
at least use that scarab to turn that off occasionally. So it is like one of the tools that you can use to get around certain mods that it might be too hard or you can't quite.
It's going to be a
through.
20
But
div
the
scarab.
general idea
For
is
real.
that you do have to actually think about these modifiers, play around them, change your characters. It's not to just a kind of like, well, you don't have to alch them, they drop rolled, but it shouldn't just be a T17 is mindless, go in there and do it. Unless, of course, your build is so strong and so diverse that it can do that, which that's fine. If you want to build your character that way, then, that's what the game allows you to do, and that's what we like. So,
Right on. We'll jump back to the league a little bit before we move on to some of the other endgame questions that I have. But what you're doing with the difficulty control for Necropolis, where you can select which monsters get buffed in which ways, seems like a lot of what people have been asking for, especially with Afflictions launch, where we didn't have as precise control over the difficulty of content we were facing. That said, how do you weigh up giving this level of control against things like adding to the time it takes to jump into the gameplay? I saw that this is going to take a bit of time to read through those things and shuffle the menu each zone.
So obviously we like giving control. But yes, in this league, you cannot skip the difficulty. Having the control is a way to make it easier, or harder, if you want. But you cannot skip it. If you just enter the area and you don't interact with the lantern, you'll get whatever randomly generates. So you don't have to, I'd say throughout the campaign, it is going to be harder by not engaging with it, but you don't have to engage with the league in the sense of interacting with that UI. But you will have to deal with the fact that some monsters are harder. So this is a rare league where in this case, you can't really skip it, which isn't something we do a lot. But occasionally we get back into that and try it out. Now that being said, yes, obviously we like difficulty, being able to manipulate the difficulty. And I
mean,
think
if you don't want to
and
engage with
obviously
the content,
rewards
why
as
are you
well.
playing the new league?
Now it just needs to be the case that it is worth your time from a reward
go play
standpoint,
standard.
engaging with that. If that isn't the case, we have failed. Like it obviously should be worth your time from a reward point to go. Oh,
but some people
awesome,
are
I got
trying to
this thing, I need to put
do.
it on,
But some people are trying to
XP, I
do
need
it
to put it on
fast.
this pack, or you
Speedrunners
get
and
like
such.
the pack spawns torment spirits on death. I need to make sure it's on this pack. Like there are
I
certainly
need to get
lots
to tier
of
16 maps.
positive
Fucking
mods
hour
or
5.
like spawning lesser shrines. Right, if you put that on a very rare pack, you're not going to get very many of them. If you put it on a common pack, all of a sudden you're going to have a whole bunch of shrine buffs throughout the area, which in turn also makes it easier. So not only does this league make it harder, it also makes it easier in some ways. Now, one thing you said talking about the time, like obviously when you get to end game, which like for every map you do get presented with that UI, but because we have added the nodes on the Atlas tree for Necropolis, we have added a keystone that allows you to, well, effectively what it says is the mods are applied randomly and there are more mods, so it is harder and it is more rewarding in some senses, but you then don't get to customize it. But if someone is like, oh, I don't want to have to deal with interacting with that between my maps, you can just run the map and it will randomly do it. And like that isn't necessarily to say that that's better or worse. It's just one of the ways someone can customize their experience here. But yeah, so through the campaign, you don't have to use the UI, but it will probably be harder and less
working
rewarding.
the back is still like
so you
grinding
should
out
be
code.
wanting to do it, unless of course you just want to get to end game. Go for it. And at end game, if you want to invest in the keystone, you can skip doing it on the maps themselves. If you again don't want to have to deal with it, so ideally we've given the choice here to do both versions and play the way you want to play.
I think that's really clever, using the Atlas passive tree as like a tool to be able to customize that league experience. Now I'm to the point that I'm surprised it hasn't happened before, right? But it makes sense if it's
actually we were talking about trying to find a way, and we were talking about like checkboxes and all that, and it's all just a little bit inelegant. And it was actually a suggestion of one of the programmers, was like we could do a keystone, and then we're like, hey, we never actually do tree support for the current league. Like it's just not even a thing that we've really considered. And from there we're like, wait, we should just do this. Like, of course we should do this. Like, this is going to be fun and allow people to do different strategies, and like, why not? So I think it is a good addition. We'll see how it actually plays, because it's the first time we're doing it, and then we may continue doing it for future leagues, or maybe it's terrible. We'll see, and we'll not do it again. Well, who knows? I mean, we think it's cool here, but we're not always right.
Love the fact that they're not afraid to make mistakes.
So in the campaign, the monsters you kill in one zone affect what happens in the next zone, like the amount of devoted modifiers that show up. And this is the first time I recall seeing a league like this where what you do in one affects like kind of the next zone like that. Does it work on like any next zone you enter, even like a zone reset of the same zone or somewhere in a different act or something?
No. So this doesn't. The league actually isn't customizable when accessing through Waypoint or through the world map. Which is bit different. I mean, you might think, but my Blood Aqueduct farming, and yeah, sure, you can still do it technically by farming from town, but we're also like, not that I know how many people even still do that outside of like, SSF tabular farming, which I still don't even know if necessarily is a strategy. But either way, yes, farming the same zone over and over is not really embraced in this league. The difficulty will still be there, but you won't be able to customize the mods, and you won't get devoted mods either. So it's more for like, the linear playthrough when you're going through. So
Souls
the way it works, the way it works effectively is like the more haunted monsters you kill, the more likely you will get devoted modifiers. It's a campaign-only feature. It doesn't happen in maps. Maps are completely randomly generated per item. So it's an interesting way where it works a little bit differently in the campaign than maps, which I think is interesting. I kind of like having subtle differences there. And yeah, the more haunted monsters you kill, the more likely you are to get devoted monsters. And this is actually a reward for why you want to make it hard. Because if, let's just using Mudflats as the example, if you put all the hard if you have, say, 2 out of 4 of the packs, or however many packs there are, have haunted mods, you might want to say, I'm going to make that easier and put them on the zombies and water elementals. But those are the least common monsters in that area, and thus you are less likely to now get devoted modifiers to appear when transitioning into either Fetid Pool or Submerged Passage. So you actually have an incentive to put them on the rowers and the other pack of rowers, because they are like the dominant monster in that area. Which is kind of interesting. So again, like there are pros and many pros and cons to controlling the difficulty and rewards. And then when you click the next,
seeing double for a minute.
Next pair through the lantern, it will like show which mods you got.
I was just seeing double for a minute. It went away.
As you can.
I'm seeing
but
windows.
Also, the other thing, just while we're on that topic, of the other reason why it's actually sometimes good to make things harder, in some sense. There's so many axes here that it's more like you want as many monsters as possible haunted by as many high tier things as possible. Is that the haunted monsters are the ones that can turn into the ones that you collect for crafting. So again, if you want to maximize your crafting output,
my brain is glossing over now the
modifiers of the
details.
highest tiers on the packs that have the highest density and pack size.
Specifics.
So again, going into mudflats as the example, you want to have the rowers do that if you want to maximize your crafting output. So there are 2 axes and rewards for why you want to be making things harder. But often what I would say people are probably going to be like, I'm going to make things a bit easier to start with as they get more comfortable with their character. As their character gets more powerful, they start to take a little bit more risks in that regard. And of course, if it becomes too hard and they over make it too hard for themselves, the mods rotate pretty frequently, like to the point if you're like running through an area, the next time if you then had to recreate that area, because you're like, nah, I've made it too hard. The mods will have rotated, and you can adapt your decisions and be like, yeah, this is easier for me now. I'll wait a few more areas or some more levels until I then raise the difficulty again.
So how clearly is that like reward system communicated in the UI? Can like someone who hasn't like watched this know that, you know, killing more of these monsters will give more devoted to the next zone and stuff like that?
That isn't currently communicated, but it will be. You probably didn't see it in the live stream, but we will do that. At least on the hovers, when you hover over and it just says devoted, we will put like a little, we'll put it on the hovers of all the like tier things where it says like, servant haunted, noble haunted, etc. Currently, I think it says something, but I can't remember what. But yeah, we'll do a pass on making things more observable and all of that.
It's actually kind of interesting on that point.
He was like,
this is the first
that's a good question.
in POE where you have information about what is in a zone and what the pack compositions are, and like just information about monsters. And there's just information generally there about like what monsters do and so on, which is kind of not really something we've ever really done before.
So
shit! I actually sort of provides
consider
that. And it'll be interesting to
I know exactly what element they'll be
whether
using.
that's actually useful and like whether we want to think about how we might communicate.
Like most of us would know it,
like,
like it's been playing long enough. You know, like this map. Oh, this is gonna be mad fucking cold damage.
Yeah, I got really excited actually when I saw that. I was like
X6 for example. You know they do all cold damage, but it's not inherent unless you actually just memorize the
there's quite an
creatures.
interesting feature in maps
that
because maps have uniform density distribution of packs. So, generally in a map, you're going to have like, I think it's 5 packs or whatever, and you're going to have 20. It's generally going to be that there's 20% of the map as each pack. So in maps, there are these extra little symbols, which I don't think were in the live stream that we've kind of added in more recently, which are variants. So sometimes a certain pack is going to have higher like pack size or mod effect or density, and there'll be these kind of up and down arrows to kind of show like this pack's going to be more common and this one's going to be less common and stuff like that, just to add that variance so that those variables can still play a role in when interacting with the modifiers. Otherwise it would just be like, here's porcupines, I'll do X, and then 90% of packs you probably wouldn't care too much about. So we've added extra variables to make it that the packs and maps are a bit, have more influence on your decisions. That being said, when you get into tier 17 and you all have a pack of Brutuses, you might actually think a bit more about it. Yeah.
You're talking about your up and down arrows.
I feel like that's his idea. That's his idea. He's very proud of it.
Stock market investing.
The pack of Brutuses.
It's there. It's ready for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to go off topic a little bit here and answer a chanted question in chat so that we can get back on track. So one sec. There we go. So you've been flooding us with a lot of great quality of life updates in the lead up to this release. It's like some spring cleaning is going on right now, which I love to see. That said, at least one of them seems to have missed the mark, which is the automation change and the resulting removal of the ability to bind instant skills to left click movement. So having your steel skin on left click and having an auto cast that way. So this seems to be a pretty unpopular change. And I just want to ask you guys, why do you feel like that is? Why is it so unpopular?
Well, there's a fair. I'll go into a few things here, but yes, obviously missed the mark on this one. As I said, we're not always right
because it takes up a skill slot.
I do, however, think this is solving some good things the way we've done it, but the problem is it hasn't obviously solved it entirely. And going from a bad solution to a bad solution, at least from our perspective, is not what we should be doing. So we will make further changes. I just don't know exactly when and to what degree. There's obviously discussions going on. So to get into some details there, I do believe that it is beneficial now that it is a more observable mechanic, a less like hidden specialized mechanic of, like you can follow a build guide and you can see, oh, this person's using this instant skill. But at no point does a user necessarily know they should randomly, unintuitively bind it to left click to have it autocast.
The way that was before was just, I think, like more than anything, it just felt like such a strange, like, why should this even be a thing? Kind of, it was kind of almost exploiting a quirk in just the way that our input system was, rather than really being
because you can't do that with a controller.
I think that was probably where we started to feel like, oh, this is like
you can't bind anything to a push
Mark,
button.
I was kind of like, this really, if you tell a new user about this thing and the way that it works and why it is the way that it is, it's kind of like, this just sounds so dumb. And so that's kind of why we were kind of sort of.
It seems like a non-intended consequence of just the input.
The problem, well, yeah, I mean, ultimately the issue there is that the solution is a reduction in character power due to the fact that you need to have an extra support socket, and without compensation, that obviously feels really bad. So
yes,
I do stand by the
you don't have to use
being able to have
3 fucking
is an advantage,
instant.
and being able to use multiple is
an
advantage. But of course, then we talk about
it's
more into socket.
Left click to move.
But if you left click to move is one skill.
Isn't reasonable.
Right, but taking away a fucking sixth of your items sockets.
From my perspective, I come down to, if these things are just becoming passive,
you can use 3, like a damage or take.
Why are
damage
they not just passive skills? That's what I've kind of
replaces damage.
We should probably
cast on damage taken.
Make them. How is, say, time of need not different from steel skin? I understand one of them is regeneration and one of them is mitigation, but in the sense that, like, effectively what we're saying, steel skin, molten shell.
Because if you're using steel skin on left click, you're not using cast on damage taken,
which is exactly what a lot of our passives do. And so I was just thinking, like, we could move a lot of these into passives. And then what we could do is actually take what we originally intended for those skills and design awesome skills that are, because they were intended to be reactionary. And it'd be nice to actually design some stuff that is useful for that. Now, obviously, that's a longer discussion, designing the specifics of all the skills. But there are also some objective problems and balance problems that did happen from this outside of socket pressure. And I can at least cover some of them now. So I'll start with, General's Cry. Obviously nerfed by this, right? It isn't nerfed if you were to use it manually. It is nerfed automated. And when you look at it, no one's using it manually. Everyone's using it automated. And when I say everyone, I obviously mean the majority
General's
of people.
Cry.
So we are buffing General's Cry, and we are doing some other things Warcry adjacent, like I think there's some inconsistencies on a bunch of unique items which have like casting a Warcry and using a Warcry, and we're making that more consistent so that more things work in that regard, but there's heaps of little nitty-gritty details there. Patch notes will hopefully clarify all that. Now, then there's mines, which is a big one. Now, mine playstyle, aside from the annoying having it on left click, going like tink, 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 tink the whole time, and that just being irritating, it is certainly the case that when it is triggering all the time with a support gem, obviously, if you now want to have the play style of throwing heaps of mines and then moving to detonate them all at once, which is how mines are meant to be played. You could do that before, and now you can't. So to change that, we've added a mastery for mines, which does the exact same behavior as before, which the mastery says your mines will detonate every X milliseconds while moving, and it will occur the moment you start moving from a stationary position. Now, the other third one I'll get into here is, Bone Armor from Necromancer. So
that's a good solution for that.
Armor, and we have redesigned some of the nodes around there. What have we changed? I'll see if I can remember all the details here. I think it's Mindless Aggression. And note, all these notables are going to probably get renamed due to the theme change, but I'll use the old names just because that's what everyone will know. So mindless aggression is now multiplicative 10% more minion damage and multiplicative 20% more minion life, instead of the increased damage and increased speed. This is possibly worse as a 2-pointer at like level 30, but in-game far superior in terms of actual damage output. You could argue it's slightly worse with spiritual aid, but I think that loss is ultimately inconsequential with the other changes here. Then there's the 4-pointer bone barrier, which we are going to keep the PDR stat and the what we're doing is we're removing bone armor and we're adding a large amount of minion life is added as extra energy shield, which will increase the minion survivability for the amount lost by bone armor. So that should provide a good mitigation against, like, well, obviously with the mechanic of energy shield recharging, it'll help a lot towards your minions. Like, they take a bit of hit of damage and then they have some time to get it back. And, you know, it's not foolproof, but that's fine. What you have lost is obviously the bleed removal from them. Deal with it is my answer on that one. What we actually did find, by the way, is a lot of necromancers weren't actually using bone armor, and a lot were just using molten shell anyway. So I don't know how much of that is actually lost. And I know this is a bit of a rant, but I'll just keep going because, again, people want to know about these changes. What else did we change there?
Well, one more thing. Did you change the leech thing, or is that...
Yeah, so there is a... Oh, I don't want to misremember exactly. I'll go into the Unholy Might thing first. So Unholy Might, we're actually changing what Unholy Might does.
Poor Jonathan.
Which is better for summoners in some regards, but more so poison summoners, and better for everyone else. And
he's just so bored sitting here holding the mic like an ice cream that he can't eat.
Chaos, as well as I think it's 25% chance to apply Wither on hit.
I mean, his game not coming out
so
till at least
hopefully that
fucking
is
December.
Enabling a lot more different unique items.
Shit.
And obviously
That's just beta, bro.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna POE 2 full release until 2025, man.
Go kick rocks, bro.
Don't also now have to
that shit comes out 2 weeks from now. We need to know.
I suppose, but you know, that's not exactly necessarily going to be a meta build. But we
don't have to use the Wither setup.
Cool. Because that gave permanent Unholy Might to monsters, and that means that with CI now you will have a physical and chaos immunity against monsters, and that was a little bit busted with, you know, Worm Flask shenanigans. So anyway, that's been adjusted, and I can't remember. We were experimenting with some leech. I can't remember if we stuck with it, but I think we had a 1% of damage dealt by minions is leached to you as life, replacing the recovery on Bone Barrier as well, which should account for a lot more incoming life recovery. I will double check that and I will post that afterwards just in case, because we went through like 50 iterations here and we're at somewhere. So that leaves one major problem, which is the socket pressure, especially on summoners. And we are actively discussing solutions to that one. I think where we are currently landing is that we want to have corruption implicits possibly on all the different minion base types. So Bone Ring, the Bone Shields, and the minion weapons, which grant various different skills like Convocation, the Offerings, Desecrate. I know a lot of people end up just auto-casting Desecrate and Offerings with the wand, but for people who don't have that's good. And at the very least, generally Convocation is unlinked. We might even do the Golem skills as corruptions too. I'm a bit iffy on that one, so I know generally I shouldn't say things that we're not definitely doing, but you know, I'm just speaking freely on that one. So hopefully that is at least a temporary solution to alleviate some socket pressure, but we
he's gonna get pow.
Doing more in the next week.
Like, what do you say, bro?
Probably kind of hard, so I would look forward to hopefully seeing more of that in the future. But that's where we're at with that pretty much.
I'll let you handle one stream.
This automation change kind of revealed just how much of a very potent band-aid the left-click automation was, because it's opened up this whole can of worms of being like, well, it's exposed how these skills designs are all a bit problematic. You know, these ones that encourage you to have them just up all the time, cast off cooldown. These are things that potentially need to be readdressed, right?
For sure. Like, I mean, this does happen a lot. I mean, even if you look at the Pantheon change, which was one of the first quality of life things we announced, like, you know, it's like, well, we're going to change this Pantheon thing. Like, surely that's good for everyone, not having to redo. And then all of a sudden it's like, but now I don't want to always have chill effect on and all this. And we're just looking at these things going, Pantheons equals positive buffs. But then there are all these niche builds and Johnny builds that end up with taking these upsides and turning them into, they become
all you have to do is
downsides,
add a
and so
tick
now we have
where you
to
could just
adapt
tick
to
on
another
and
thing. Like,
off.
often what happens is we change a system that we entirely think
That's
is
not
positive.
impossible to do in the UI.
And yes, either because we've not given it enough
No,
time
it isn't.
internally, or because again it's
But
very hard for
it's more work.
even 100 people to find things as quickly and as actively as the many hundreds of thousands of people. And so, yeah, we find that
to hire the path of
there are
building
things
people.
we then need to do afterwards to fix. So obviously, we address the Pantheon thing
They
by
look-
allowing
they're
you
very
on
good at adding
character by
ticks.
character basis to then disable and enable a Pantheon upgrades to fix a bunch of niche builds. But yeah, with a game as like expansive as Path of Exile, with all the millions of different builds, it is pretty hard to change anything without affecting something. And in this case, it was just we made a change that affected a lot more than we had originally thought about.
So are they
And yeah, we're
not
doing
doing
a
it?
lot of solutions here, but there is certainly need for a much grander solution when it comes to that left click thing. But I think where we're at right now is probably pretty good. I am never ever going to be happy with the fact anyone feels like they need to do some sort of numlock shenanigans, or whatever the crazy strategies are. That is not okay, and as such, we need to. If that is still happening, we need to still fix more.
Yeah. When there's like one of these things where you change something and it's like, this will be good once we get these other things implemented down the line.
I didn't know this was gonna be
do you
such a big
feel
deal. I thought it was a
compelled to
pretty
maybe,
cool
like,
idea.
Hold off on the change until you can get it all done
Guess
at
I
once?
never.
Well, I think sometimes.
It
But I think
just-
in this case, I think we're in. I think the lesser evil has been met.
It's one of those things
and
where
I think
with
that it
so
is
much,
worth
so many
sticking
people
to
having
this one,
struggling getting enough
especially
damage
with
and
us
surviving
fixing
in
all those
maps
actual
as it
objective
is, and your
problems with the
sockets
balance
always
and
having so much
actual
pressure,
nerfs
you
that
need a
occurred as
six
a
link,
result
you
of
need
it.
a 6 link
Sure,
weapon,
not
you need like adding another socket to solve the problem that they just took away.
Yeah.
Play relatively well.
It's yeah.
Like,
But yeah, in some cases, yeah, I'm sitting
Yeah.
there like, okay,
that, and I
No,
understand like Pantheon thing too. Like there are certain Pantheon nodes that brick my ward loop.
No, and that, yeah, I didn't. I saw the Pantheon upgrade. I was like, oh, that seems like a cool idea. Like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. But then you really start thinking about it, like, oh, I can see why that would be a problem.
Because now I can never take that Pantheon node. Ever.
But again, it's just a simple tick. Like, if you
No,
unlocked it, you
well-
could just, boo, 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 like,
Well,
like
yeah.
a node, like a notable. I mean,
Yeah, it would be nice.
they made a
but-
mistake. It's not that big.
They made a mistake. It's not the end of the world.
So yeah, I mean, ideally, I can't promise by the end of next week we have the right answer, and I can't promise we're necessarily going to do something, but it is certainly something we are actively going to we have been actively discussing and will continue actively discussing the moment this live stream is finished.
We're working on it, motherfuckers.
To get to the meat of some of these problems, which I'm excited to see what you do with these like skills that are all have this design where they were just chucked on left click, because hopefully we get some much more interesting skills out of it down the line as a result.
Yeah, I agree. Already I have a lot of cool ideas. It's just a matter of now finding the resources to get them all in and whatnot.
Good luck. So since we're on the quality of life topic, something that bugged me quite a bit lately is getting attacked while talking to NPCs, especially in Affliction. I didn't end up getting through all the lore because I kept constantly getting attacked. But in the preview footage, I even noticed, I don't know if you ended up using a different version, but the player had the issue of talking to the nameless seer and getting attacked by a mob. Have you guys considered using pause tech to pause the game during NPC conversations when you're otherwise defenseless, or maybe other solutions like making you untargetable during dialogue?
I would say yes, at least in the especially in the context of PoE 2, which does have pausing.
Is there any actual reason we can't add pausing to PoE 1?
Oh, you're doing it again?
Probably not.
I know it's kind of been one of those things that we've. Sorry,
I love it.
It's one of those things that like we kind of did, and then we're like, well,
You're kind of like a dick.
we'll have to talk to Reese and find
It's
out.
real dick, like real
what the
passive
implications
aggressive.
were. We
Like,
certainly
what
wasn't
can we
too
do,
tired.
huh?
When we first added it, it was like this is going to break so much shit, but then it didn't really in PoE 2, so maybe it will.
Yeah, I'm
work.
pretty sure. I can't see any obvious reason why it wouldn't be able to be ported over. Relative,
You would have to strategically go through every interaction and make sure there's not exploitable.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
the thing that does suck a little bit about pausing during NPC conversations, though, is that there's various triggers that occur.
But they've already done it with Shaper.
So if we just
he shows up
like that,
and everything pauses,
like, it would break stuff like the Fairgraves quest, and like things like that. Like there are some things that would break if we did that immediately, but like it's the kind of thing
we would have to find a way to be able to pause, or like opt into pausing on some and not on others.
There's also the question of other people in the zone. As well. Like, there's like a ton of random things that would probably.
The way our pausing works right now is everyone has to have opted into a pause for it to be paused. So, but I mean, technically in multiplayer, if you in proximity like that, you can just be like, defend me to your friend, I suppose. But they might just run off and start trying to loot some stuff and leave you to die. But yeah, I guess the counter argument is like, what about things like having safe zones around NPCs? And I would say that I have yet to find many games that don't end up just having exploitative cases around that.
Exactly.
And that would be a lot more actual work,
What about the untargetable buff on the player while they're talking to the NPC?
But it's the whole I'm in a map and Alva's there and like, oh no, I'm gonna die or something, or like I just want to reprieve and I just
exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking, bro.
I'm safe now, and then I get
in a world where people can log out. How is that like problematic?
I mean, you're not wrong, but it feels like, well, at least logging out has a cost to the portal, right? Like, I mean, it isn't quite the same, but in the sense that like, it feels exploitative, whereas logging out does not. Like, it feels like I'm cheesing some mechanic that's unintended for that. Like, I wouldn't want to do a solution that feels
I counter argue that comment because I think logging out feels exploitative.
Whereas
if you're talking to an NPC who protects you with a bubble because they have NPC magic, I'm like, that seems like an in-game thing.
You could
like,
just add a timer. You can only invulnerable for 10 seconds.
But also logging out in PoE 2, of course, will log you right back into
yeah,
you were.
Be careful now because you're going to get us talking into changing how logout works.
Gotta
need a 1 minute cooldown.
I have to say, after the hands-on with PoE 2, I love the pausing and the reconnecting you exactly where you were if the game crashes or something. So
cool. Which turned out to be very beneficial during the test we just did, considering the number of crashes there still were in the build. But
it happens.
At least you could log back into exactly where you were and just continue.
It certainly helped.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Something you
there
might
will be a solution to your problem, is what I'm saying.
Right.
I like that.
Might be one of them.
Hell yeah.
Otherwise, we'll engineer. And
Give me pausing, bitches.
Solution. Like, there will be something, but yes, it has come up quite a bit recently, just because of the scope of PoE 2. And generally, when we're discussing that stuff, we do also think, well, if this is a problem in PoE 1 as well, like, what are we doing? Like, let's fix it. So it'll happen at some point.
They're pushing. They're kicking he's kicking the can down the road.
Kind of quality of life related thing, which was the announcement of the Ashling crafting change. So we've been wanting itemized Ashling crafts for quite some time, which is pretty awesome that we're getting that now. But it seems strange to me that it was at the cost of the current Veiled or Chaos style effect. That especially was a really nice mid-level entry crafting option for a lot of.
Ashling is
remove a mod, add a veiled.
Got it.
Versus Ashling's much more deterministic, but more expensive, more costly version. So why did you get rid of the regular veiled effect?
I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say the intention's to just get rid of things, but I also kind of don't see it as a loss to be able to kind of, where possible, not retain every single little crafting thing. I would say that the crafting is, at this point, like, quite bloated in a sense of like, it's quite hard for someone who isn't reading into and studying profusely to figure out exactly how to craft the best item. And that's not necessarily a problem, but taking the opportunities to remove something that is honestly just bloat at some points is a win, especially if we can find a way to bring it back into the game a different way that feels a bit more core and fundamental. And maybe you'll find that with, say, the Necropolis crafting system. Like, that is, in theory, a start to end game meant to be crafting. You can do crazy stuff at the end. You can do really simple stuff mid game, early game. And then, obviously, when we then go to say, is this coming core? Like, how do we want to do it? If we want to do it, maybe it's absolutely busted in so many ways that we don't want to. We'll see. But there's always more crafting things we're adding. Like, you don't have a shortage of different crafting things in the game. Like, it's certainly a little bit out of control in a good way and in sometimes a bad way. And more are going to come. So I wouldn't worry about losing something like that in the short term, especially when, you only need to wait a league or two for things like that to come back. And there are always just so many other ways to craft your items. I don't think losing that is ultimately fundamental. And the win of having, obviously, it be tradable is huge. I am very much trying my best to get around as many of the, services as opposed to trades. We're doing a lot
100%.
as much as possible. Like I eventually want to make sure we add a thing where for even mirroring items, even though that's like the nichest of the niche in the game, we're talking about, the select few. I do want it to be that, there is a way that you can do that without having to trade your items to someone. So there are a few designs there even, and we will.
Oh, that targeting
Hopefully
TFT,
we will
bro.
eventually get rid of as
That's
much
kind of
of
like
that
a
as
little bit
possible,
of
especially
like
when it comes to
moving
trusting
away
someone
from
with
the
your
need
item.
of TFT
I don't like
and stuff
that
like
at
that.
all. So yeah, we'll hopefully work
That might
around.
be a
But,
little bit of
obviously, like services like boss kills and all of that, there's not really a lot you can do about that.
a
That's
bit of him
completely fine,
reacting
but,
to the whole TFT drama.
when it comes to actually like loaning someone your item, I'm certainly not kind of in favor of that thing. And so yeah, hopefully we can see the removal of the rest of those in due time. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm super keen on those changes. So if the thinking is to kind of like slim down on some bloat, I certainly don't disagree that like the crafting system might have like a bit much going on. I think in this particular instance, the reason why you've seen this reaction to it is this particular one little aspect of bloat. It was actually kind of like used in almost every mid-level craft, so it feels a little bit jarring to see it removed, I guess.
Fair enough, and I guess the answer there is Necropolis will provide one of the most in-depth crafting systems we ever have, and you could argue about Standard League, but I mean, my answer again there is deal with it, and then later on there will be more crafting systems and more new things and more interesting things. So.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited about the Necropolis crafting. I was stoked. The thing I said after last league, I was like, you guys have to do like some sort of crafting league this time. I feel like it's the only answer to like the whiplash of previous league. So let's talk a bit about that actually. So Affliction was a lot of people's potential favorite league, maybe mine. Was certainly extremely rewarding. Why do you think it was so popular, and were you worried about kind of like coming into this league after that?
It was a good league. I don't know about favorite.
Pinatas, dog. Pinatas.
So popular? I mean, obviously,
but I've had some good leagues, bro.
So many ways. It was certainly too difficult. We certainly messed up a bit there.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I can't hate on the rest of my leagues just because one of them gave me a whole bunch of divs.
Around the difficulty of the character builds to handle the difficulty. Yes, it became Magic Find Ruckus League. Why was it popular? I mean, it was different. It's not something we had done before in so many regards. It was using new art, and obviously it had bosses, it had all of the stuff, it had so many different kind of reward arcs and existing old ones put into it, like the omens and all kinds of little things. It just had heaps of little detail. The ascendancy classes, I mean, people like that, but ultimately, yes, we can just go to the Magic Find. I'll tell you, I've never had that experience before. I've never, been to the point where, well, not quite like this, where really it feels like the only thing left on the filter is unique leather belts and unique heavy belts and a couple other things, and there's still too many belts to try, and you're still just like, oh my god, there are freaking belts everywhere.
It was a bit too far.
Yeah, to say the least.
I mean, even just from a server perspective, the level of the number of players we could get on a server per server this league was
Am I
much
muted?
lower
No.
than it has been before.
Okay. Sorry.
And even that was a bit of a started to become
I
a bit of a
didn't
problem.
know
like
if I
that, yeah.
pressed the button when I started
So
to
the
drink.
primary issue there is actually what happens is when monsters stay alive longer, because Affliction was making things last live longer, they are getting hit more. And when a monster is alive, they cost more than when they're dead. And so the moment, and then obviously when you've got a Stygian Spires spewing out 700 monsters a second, combined with the 50% increased attack speed, soul eaters, and all of that, you know, you are nothing can survive that level of absolute mayhem, as in hardware wise. So, but yes, there is going to be a bit of a detox to some degree. But on the other hand, we have changed a lot in the end game to the point where hopefully the meta is so different that it kind of just feels a little bit different as opposed to necessarily like less or worse. There is one other change I'll talk about, and I'm keen for people's feedback. So one problem that we kind of have is that the amount of like obviously if you were to farm mage bloods, headhunters, etc. via divination cards, like there is a somewhat reliable way to get that. You get your doctors, you get your apothecaries and whatnot. And you saw the new divination card scarabs. Obviously, we're like embracing that. We're not changing anything around that. But one thing that I do consider problematic, and we have made changes around, is stacked decks. So stacked decks, a lot of those uniques are coming from stacked decks. And so we have actually made some changes where the league rewards of various leagues, especially the ones that were quite high, so stuff like Tujin and a few other leagues, we have cut back on the amount of stacked decks they're giving. And you're like, oh wow, nerf my fun stacked decks. To compensate for that, and what it has allowed us to do is we have actually multiplied the drop rates of your mage bloods, your headhunters, etc. by 2.5 times from world drops. And the intention there is that you are seeing more from actual drops instead of just from stacked deck spam.
What?
If you kept stacked deck, it was certainly on the chopping block. It was.
I know you were gunning for stacked deck, like you were all keen to get that thing out. But I think a lot of the reason was just the idea that one thing that kind of sucks a bit is that you're getting rewards.
Wow.
For bosses, for boss kills that people haven't been able to do yet.
Actually, not anymore. We have changed, which
He's
is true. That,
shut the fuck up, Jonathan.
Which
Not anymore.
People saw, but stacked decks cannot yield divination cards that would give items from exclusive bosses anymore.
Yeah, that was definitely a thing that sucked. Was that, you know, like you want the exclusive items to some extent to feel like okay, you proved that you killed this guy by having that item. So you know,
there are some corner cases like, you know, the Gambler and the Void that we're doing some specific handling around, but in general, you should be seeing a lot less like random Starforges appearing before anyone's even killed Uber Shaper kind of thing.
Right.
And also, obviously, you've still got the Voidborn keys that will yield it. You've got Valdo's maps, which will yield whatever people have chosen to give there, which is probably just a bunch of mage blood still. But yes, ultimately, yeah, we want to see a lot more of those drops come from actually killing monsters.
Fuck you.
From
it wasn't enough.
Cards the way we intended, which is by actually farming the counter, as opposed to just mass stack deck farming on a mass level from specific leagues. I hope that is received positively, of course, because I genuinely believe it is better. But let us know. We have a little bit of time to make some changes there if needed.
Right on. I'll let people share their opinions on that one.
I just felt like it was like an addiction for people that could gamble further into the gambling.
And not just from random stack decks. But
get 1,000 stack decks.
I think it's a win.
We'll see. Chat says W, so a lot of wins in chat.
I think it's a win. Overall, I think it's a win.
Not
gonna lie.
Received. You can feel a sigh of relief, perhaps. So I think everyone agrees that Affliction was like probably a bit crazy on the economic side of things and what was dropping and everything like that. And I must say, like, I played the most I've ever played this league. And I was getting to the point, like, in that 2 months phase where I was, like, doing things and creating builds and doing content that I just hadn't done before. And I think a lot of players had that same experience. And looking at the overall economy, I expected with how crazy the league was for things to be ruined. But because that term gets thrown around a lot when an economy is different, but the like end result felt really positive for most people. Where like, sure, some things, like if you were trying to compete with the Giga Juicers for the items that they were trying to buy, like their bows or whatever, then yeah, you were having a hard time. But for the most part, a lot of stuff was really accessible, and it felt like a really fun league in that regard. And that was actually the biggest, I think, contributor to why it was such a fun league.
Not melees.
Many others. Do you have any thoughts on that and like that economic shift?
Axes were ridiculous expensive all league.
I mean, I love it. I love how the economy goes wild based on the content we add. It's always interesting to watch and whatnot. wouldn't say I have any strong feelings one way or another, but I wouldn't say it's like I just want to note, it's not like our intention to, get away from that specifically or do anything one way or another. Like, we liked these things happening organically. We like the community figuring out how to get around that and utilize it. And yeah, I agree. It ended up being completely fine and honestly completely fun. Maybe not everyone agrees. Maybe there are a lot of people who are like, no, it was too hard and I felt like everyone else got ahead of me. We don't know too much about that, but I mean, the league's ending now anyway, so what happened happened. But yeah, I mean, I do agree. At least I played a lot. My friends played a lot. Like, we certainly got into it. A bunch of people here were playing a lot, and I've heard mostly only positivity coming from outside of the very early in the league where we had some misbalance. Like, the positivity for Affliction was very high. It's actually making me think like a little bit more about how we can find some way to make some of it core, but I don't quite know how to do that just yet. I mean, I don't know if you saw one, I don't know if it was in there, but one of the keystones has the whole, like, when there's less than 50 monsters remaining, your map boss is empowered by wisps. I don't know if it was in the live stream, I can't remember. Too many things going on. But that's like kind of one way, at least for now. But there's a lot of good monsters there. There's a lot of good, like, I mean, the bosses and the ascendancies and stuff are interesting. It's just, it actually is one of the more complicated ones, especially when you consider the ascendancies and stuff, to try and even think how to put that into core. Like, that's a lot of character power. And you, like, I don't know if we will do that, but ideally, even just the magic finding kind of part of it with some regulation to some degree would be fun to add. But I mean, who's to say the current league isn't going to end up having? Sure, it won't be a magic finding one so much, but with all the crafting and whatnot, it's probably heavily going to, change the economy dynamically, and that will evolve over time as well. So,
I think it's really relieving to hear as a player that you guys are like, you liked what you saw with the outcome of that. Like, I think the technical side of how Affliction achieved that with, like, things being laggy and all that sort of problem is not ideal, but the end result was something we really enjoyed. But there's this perception that you guys at GGG are sometimes a little bit grinchy about this stuff where you're like, we don't want you to have items and currency. So it's good to hear that.
I mean,
it's more positive.
I am playing the game every league till the high end game and mostly to level 100, and I am farming all these things. Like, I'm not sitting there going like, damn, I don't want all this currency. Like,
what I don't like is when you like press Alt in the game and you get disconnected from the server, or like random stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to technically break. So yeah.
I'd say one big shift, like, just talking about playing the game here, and like, I do want to understand, like, a lot of what all these QOL changes are, a lot of what we're doing, a lot of what more will be done. And I think a lot of what is coming...
They have to have a lot of inter-office drama.
Especially all the in-game changes.
Like, forming now because of Path 2. The difference between Path 2 improvements and Path 1.
You guys have been playing the game because you did these changes.
We started...
Competition is good.
The whole sextant thing is just like, get me away from this. And I'm in-game going like, okay, I've just allocated this tree. I'm like, damn, I don't want to play this anymore. And then I'm like,
maybe.
Your ego is so big, you feel like you don't need them, or you don't need...
That's where you then get the loadouts. And obviously I can respec, but I don't want to have to just go trading, which we know is a flawed system currently, and we've spoken about trading a lot and how we are going to improve it PoE 2 and then looking at PoE 1 around that in the future. But like, I'm sitting here trying to buy unmaking orbs, having the most frustrating time ever just because no one's replying to me and all of that. Like, I know the pain.
One of us.
And then I'm like, okay, we need some sort of like Atlas tree loadouts or something like that. Like, we need to find a way to have this so that I can play the end game the ways I want without feeling so punished. And this comes into another thing, which is like, okay, like Wandering Path. I want to play the end game my way, but if Wandering Path is quantitatively too strong, then I'm not playing it my way. I'm playing it the way that the meta tells me I have to, because it is too powerful. And so, there's things like that where that comes why we've removed a number of the keystones and whatnot, is because if you feel like you have to do something. And so you could argue, okay, we'll nerf the value. Well, now I don't want to do it at all. So what's the point in it existing? If the keystone is into that binary state of feeling like you have to do it versus not have to do it, get rid of it. That's generally how I feel about it, and add something cooler and better. And the new keystones might end up in the same ballpark, and you know what, might remove them later and add new ones as well. That's just how it will be. But yeah, anyway, I don't want it to be that the loadouts are like everyone has tree A, everyone has tree B, everyone has tree C, because the keystones mean that you have to do that. If people want to do that, because that's like, metas are metas, you can't get around that. But if it's that feeling of I have to do X, that I want to try and get away from, and especially for multiple leagues in a row, like if it's okay for one league, you have fun, and then if you feel like you have to do something that isn't enjoyable, go away. I don't want it. Like it shouldn't exist.
You love to hear it. You love to hear it. But I have a follow-up question that's completely unrelated.
How long is the
What about
stream?
Rucksack.
I think it's like 2 hours.
You're lucky you got it for those 3 months or 4 months.
I think so.
Oh no.
Just thinking about the size of this
upload. You might see it back.
I get you. I'm actually
honestly surprised that Chris was even okay to even let you do that.
I don't think he was okay with it.
Really?
I think I snuck that.
You snuck that one in without.
Well, you weren't okay with it either. Like,
I wasn't okay.
We had a massive argument about it.
Oh no.
I assumed that Chris approved.
I'm just thinking, when are we gonna get to Path 2? Like,
but anyway, the
Never.
luxury of the leagues is we do get to try these things for 3 or 4 months. And the importance is when we do something that we are
he's just never going to talk about it.
We are in disagreement about.
It's all about Necropolis.
We do reevaluate it at the end of that and decide, are we keeping it or not? And it is a firm no on this one. And, like the good thing is we do, because we have these seasonal cycles, the leagues, we do get to try these things, and we do get to do something that we're maybe not quite comfortable with just to really test it. And in this case, it's not. It's not staying in.
I mean, I have to respect a firm no, but what? Why? What? Why? How come?
Well, okay, why? Not to put him on. Sorry to put you on the spot,
Sorry.
but I was on one half of the argument.
Hang on. So you're first of all.
Oh no, I don't want to keep it.
First of all, Mark ultimately gets to decide this, but at the same time, my feeling on this stuff is that I don't like it when you have a build choice that results in more inventory space, because that kind of thing like leads to sort of weird incentives that I don't really love. Like, it's like if you have to, it's like if I have to change my build to get more inventory space, that just doesn't feel right to me. It's a little bit hard to explain exactly why that is, but like there's various things from games like that where
I do actually agree with that one. Having it be on a class is certainly not the right.
That was
answer.
weird.
I also just personally don't think. I think inventory space limitation is a good thing.
Right.
I think that pressure is good, and I don't have a personal problem with playing with it. Obviously, it's nice to always just have more and more and more and more. But I do think that pressure is interesting, and I do think it is important to have pressure on how much you can pick up and leave a map with. Especially after Affliction, I was leaving every map with a full inventory, going like, holy, there's more things I want to take and I can't, and literally there's stacks and stacks of currency on the ground I can't pick up. But I think that is healthy and good, and it makes you make the good decisions.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't think this was actually about the space. The reason why everyone loved the rucksack was that it was a separate space that allowed it to be much easier to manage things like your map rolling currency and your scrolls and just that random shit that fills up and clutters your inventory that you constantly have to deal with when you're shifting stuff over to back and forth your stash. There's a real problem there, a quality of life problem that the rucksack inadvertently addressed, and that's why people loved it, I think.
Fair enough. There are some... Well, at least, okay, so if that is say the problem of rolling maps, for example, there are better solutions to that, I would say, which is like, again, I hate talking about this because now everyone's going to want it, and it like makes it sound like it's certainly going to happen, and it isn't necessarily. But like, surely a like inventory attached to your map device that you can open that like contains your fragments and whatnot.
I guess you can't put stuff in it and meet like from the map when you pick it up, I guess.
Yeah, but you just said that you're not going to do that, which is the fucking point of you already did something. Just give it back.
I don't know. There's
like, what the fuck? Like, this is the problem.
The old quality of life bingo sheet that was there, and I have been thinking about trying.
You don't have to make a rough sack that big. You can make it like 4 or 5 slots big.
4 or 5 slots, dude. Yeah. Just enough for my scrolls, a stack of alks. And some chisels.
I can see there being another solution, and I'd be fine with that because, like, to me, it's not the fact about getting the more inventory space; it's about solving that quality of life issue. So, if there's another solution, I'm here for it.
There probably is. It's just whether or not we can do it, and whether or not we can come up with it in a reasonable time. it's all a resources game at the end of the day. So, look, I am keeping an eye on those bingo sheets. I am I'm tactically picking the ones so that we can't the bingo can't be completed.
Keep making them bingo sheets.
Not actually, but one
Just
thing
give
that is
everybody
important
this
with a lot of
hack.
quality of life.
It's super easy.
Especially with PoE 2's development. We are
Like,
looking
little
at
NPC
a lot of
that
these
says,
things which have
"Hey,
been hard nose.
You should go with this
really
pack."
reevaluating, and it's like,
Yeah, just be like, hey man, I got your backpack.
As,
cool.
like,
So like, dude, super
You know
easy.
what they could
I think
do?
as well, just
They
like
could do
watching,
add it as a
like,
as
new
a
player
bell component
experience videos and things like that, and just like looking at all the stuff that people are doing, and like
where it
it's
could be
kind of
just
get-
the
it's
way you
really
wear the
another shot at,
belt.
like,
It just
looking at
adds
all
these
that
extra
really
5
core
slots.
stuff again and thinking about it, and like we just don't
Maybe.
often think about some of that stuff very often.
But that's
because
more
it's been here for so
development.
long. And,
I
so,
just
yeah,
want them to
having a
give
chance
us
to,
the
like,
thing
really
they already
evaluate
had.
really then starts to
Just
see
give us the
why
fucking
people aren't
back.
even like this.
Enable.
Like, and it makes
Click the check mark.
Like we on Path of Exile 2, obviously you have I maybe shouldn't spoil this, but I'm going to. We have on Path of Exile 2, we obviously have no more portal scrolls, and I'm not saying that we're doing that in PoE 1 just yet. However, well, I say just yet, maybe ever, but however, in PoE 1, what we are adding is, and it's come from the bingo sheet, is a bind key to just instantly open a portal that you can bind, and you don't now have to open your inventory to do it. I think having to open your inventory during a boss fight or something is.
But why keep it in your inventory then at that
pausing,
point?
That's kind of more acceptable because you can now pause, use the portal, and you don't risk danger. But messing around with that in the midst of combat is not something that you should really have to be doing. And the changes to PoE 2 portals is what really made us reevaluate that. So yes, in 3.24, we'll do the classic video probably after this or next week or some with us actually showing how it works. There will be a bind for instantly opening a portal, assuming you have a portal scroll in your inventory.
Sick. Yeah, love to hear it. All right.
That only solves that problem. It doesn't solve having a
another thing
random
that's been
popcorn
mentioned a lot in
currency in
chat,
your
which is,
fucking inventory.
do you have any brief comments on the state of some of the lesser used ascendancies like Gladiator, for example? Any potential reworks or improvements coming to them?
I certainly want to.
Nope.
I always love doing that.
Nope.
And last time, obviously, with Chieftain, we missed the mark. But now during Affliction with the League meta, obviously Chieftain grew into fit a little bit with Fulcrum and whatnot. So, it's kind of interesting that in last live stream we discussed that one not really hitting where we want, and now it's got a lot more uses, and maybe this coming League it'll have a lot less uses. We'll see. It's quite fun how the League changes what people play. However, yes, ascendancy class balances are nice. Effectively, we just have to, again, look at what resources we have and decide how much we can do and where we want to target it. Generally, we have a big discussion towards the end of each league development and think, what are we going to do next? Look at the problems, look at what we want to do. And we have a list that's bigger than we can do. And often those things are on that list and we have to weigh, like, are we going to do option A or option B? And sometimes balancing an ascendancy class is overall less gain for the players than something else we want to do. Like, if you would rather multiple Atlas trees and or a Gladiator rebalance, I would hope to think the majority of people are going to be picking the Atlas tree feature. Maybe not everyone, but again, it's better for the mass, and thus, like, that is what we do. So, yeah, it is a resourcing issue at the end of the day. Like, you can only do so much with what you have, but we do a lot. Like, don't get me wrong. But yes, we would get there eventually. It will come up in one of the things, and it is something that we will commit to.
It's okay.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to wrap up Path of Exile 1 Q&A now. Thanks for the very long discussion session. I feel like we could talk about a lot of this stuff.
I should stop pausing. I should stop
talk
here.
about all day is Path of Exile 2.
Well, it's wrapping up now.
About Path of Exile 2, both the new reveals from
I think I
today
might have been
and
a
some
little bit
broader
behind you.
questions also. So,
A few seconds.
let's dive into